The Warring States period was an era of sudden upsets. Eastern Zhou collapsed, and its former vassal states went on fighting among themselves. The fate of every state often hung in the balance. The strong did not always remain strong, and with effective reforms, the weak could become strong. The rise of the state of Qin was particularly unexpected. Its transformation from weakness to strength, a seeming miracle. When Qin Shi Huang ended the centuries of struggle between the states in 221 BC, he made China a unified, centralized state for the first time in its history. It's a position China has held in East Asia ever since. To this day, people remain curious about the rise of Qin. How did a small, isolated state rise to become invincible? In the 9th century BC, Fei Tse, a Ying horse breeder and trainer, was recognized for his services to King Shao of Zhou by being given land on the upper reaches of the Wei River at a place called Qin. In 770 BC, Shang of Qin provided an escort for King Ping of Zhou when he moved the capital east from Haojing to Luoyi. In return, King Ping made Qin a major vassal state of Zhou. He made Shang a duke and granted him the land west of Qishan. But the land came with strings attached, since the territory was already occupied by Shirong nomads. It took generations of bloody battles before the state of Qin wrested control of the land. Even then, the Shirong still made frequent raids. This struggle to survive made Qin people strong and resilient. But the states east of Qin, proud of their long history of civilization, looked down on Qin for its unusual history and remoteness, even regarding it as a barbarian state.
因为当时秦国呢地处西陲，落后，立国时间呢比中原国家晚了大概有2个多世纪，和西戎杂居在一块，所以中原这个国家盟会的时候，往往是不会邀请秦国参加的，因为秦国是一个野蛮落后的国家。
Duke Mu was a significant figure in the history of Qin. He came to power in 659 BC and surrounded himself with capable advisors such as Bai Li Shi and Zhen Shu. With their assistance, he achieved a series of successes against Qin's powerful neighbor, the state of Jin. This allowed him to capture the Heshi region west of the Yellow River for the first time. He also persuaded You Yu, a Shirong envoy, to help him defeat the Shirong. But to progress, the state needs more than just a strong leader. To overcome its relative backwardness, Qin had to modernize its political and legal systems. Instead, in the 300 years after Duke Mu's death, Qin was plunged into 4 generations of chaos under Dukes Li Gong, Cao, Jian, and Chu Tse. This was also a time of radical change, as other states were transforming themselves from feudal fiefdoms into centralized bureaucracies. Late in the spring and autumn period, Jin split into Han, Zhao, and Wei. Wei introduced reforms, making agriculture its top priority and producing China's first legal code, the Book of Laws, written by advisor Li Kui. Wei quickly became Zhou's most powerful vassal state. Meanwhile, Qin was falling apart. Decades of warfare, combined with an outmoded system of government, led to a decline in agriculture and the economy. Dukes and ministers quarreled, officials were corrupt. The people of Qin, famous for their bravery, fought each other rather than for their state. Early in the 5th century BC, Wei recaptured the He region. This shamed Qin and provoked a crisis. But crisis can be a force for change. The young and ambitious Duke Shao, who became ruler of Qin in 362 BC, vowed to restore Qin to the glory it had enjoyed under Duke Mu, take back the He region, and transform the state. To achieve these goals, Duke Shao realized he had to end Qin's internal problems. Otherwise, the state would not survive. He needed a talented visionary, someone who could both devise and implement the policies needed to reform the state. Offering attractive rewards, he announced his quest for an advisor. The one who succeeded in helping him strengthen Qin would be given high office and land. A young man living in Wei was delighted to hear this announcement. We know him as Shenyang. Originally called Gun Suyang, Shenyang was also known as Wei Yang because he was a minor Wei noble. He only became known as Shenyang after Duke Shao gave him the land of Shang. Shang had studied the Book of Laws in Wei, hoping it would help him achieve his ambitions. Unfortunately, he failed to gain the king's favor in Wei, so as soon as he heard Duke Shao's announcement, Shang went to Qin. It is said that during his first meeting with the Duke, Shang suggested that he should rule by kindness. But such a system would have required generations of effort. In the Warring States period, rule by kindness was utopian. Eager to see his state become powerful, the pragmatic Duke wasn't particularly interested in being kind to his people. In their second meeting, Shang advocated strict governance based on legalism. This idea made the Duke sit up and take notice, and they discussed it for days. Shang argued that reforming the legal system and other institutions would make Qin a powerful state. Shang's blueprint for progress greatly impressed the Duke. This rapport between ruler and scholar would lead to the reforms responsible for Qin's later success. But conservative forces were sure to hamper any attempt at reform. Both Li Kui in Wei and Wu Qi in Chu had encountered opposition when they attempted reform. They had some success, but failed to implement their reforms in full. Shang's reforms faced the same obstacles, even though they had the Duke's full support. Conservatives challenged Shang's reform process before it even began.
当时旧贵族的两个最重要的代表就是甘龙和杜挚，他们就是坚决的反对变法。他们的主张就是说，你如果进行变法的话，那一定会引起天下大乱。商鞅进行了那个坚决的驳斥，他认为就是3代的这个圣王都是不拘于过去的礼节，而达到了一个王的这样的一个境界，所以他认为只有愚蠢的人才会拘泥于这样的一个过去的法治，而只有圣明的人才是一个开启一个时代、创造一个制度的这样的状态。
你这个宰相府里，跟人家就当一个门客一样，跑到人家那个旅馆去后，他也没有证件。
In Shanxi, once part of the state of Qin, they're preparing to stage a theatre piece about the reforms. The classic Qin Chang opera, The Reforms of Xiangyang, has won many awards. It's 5 years since the opera was last performed. Like the reforms themselves, it seems to have become history. But writer Wang Junwu and actor Liu Zhejiang are revising the opera and plan to stage it again.
当然，在提倡这个以史为鉴，这个历史上的发生的这些有名的事件，或在这个现实生活中有很惊人的相似之处，所以把这种精神啊，以这个前代的那种历史故事发扬出来，所以对咱们这个现实来说有一个启迪作用，有一个推动作用。
Qin Chang opera is one of China's oldest theatrical forms. Originating in West Zhou, it was fully developed in Qin. The high-pitched, exuberant singing style is still popular throughout Shanxi. Still, it's not going to be easy to revive the reforms of Xiangyang. Even local audiences aren't convinced that it will be a success. Shang himself faced even greater difficulties, so he didn't announce his reforms immediately. Instead, he found a clever way of introducing them, one that helped them to be quickly accepted throughout the state.
不能轻易奈红人，说了就要去兑现，要讲诚信，不能骗。
What he did seems trivial, but it had far-reaching effects. Shang put a log at the south gate of the market and offered 10 gold pieces to anyone who carried it to the north gate. It seemed too good to be true, and no one took him up on it. When the reward was increased to 50 gold pieces, the whole city was abuzz. Finally, one brave man moved the log to the north gate. Shang demonstrated his determination and credibility by giving him the reward. This event became the catalyst for a major transformation, and the curtain rose on a grand drama of reform. Shang's reforms were implemented over 10 years and covered political, economic, legal, social, and cultural aspects. The classic book of Lord Shang records the major strands of the reform. Shang emphasized legalism with clearly defined rewards and punishments. To make Qin powerful, Shang devoted most of the state's resources to agriculture and the military. However, the contents and varying styles of the book have led most scholars to believe that it was not written by Shang himself, but by his followers and later generations of legalists. Some even believe that it's a fake. After more than 2,000 years, the book is the only surviving written record of Shang's reforms. For a long time, it's been hard to learn more about them because of a lack of physical evidence. This is the Shanxi History Museum. Because Shanxi province was once part of Qin, the museum contains many ancient Qin artifacts. However, it has no written records of the reforms. Here, as in the rest of China, no trace has been found of the original documents recording Shang's reforms. They have different shapes, are made of different materials, and come from different eras. But these exquisitely crafted containers all have the same name, Jie, meaning noble. Jie are ancient drinking vessels shaped like birds. Nobles used them to make offerings of wine to the ancestors. For this reason, they came to be identified exclusively with the nobility. They even indicated the rank of a noble or scholar. Shang's reforms completely changed the way this hierarchy operated, transforming the system by which titles were acquired and inherited. The new system rewarded achievement and punished failure. Success in battle became the only way to acquire noble rank. Any man, whether noble, scholar, or farmer, would be given a title if he killed enough enemy soldiers. But a noble defeated in battle was stripped of his title. And a man could not inherit his father's title unless he earned it through military prowess.
变法的一个最核心的内容，实际上是一个爵制改革。它是以这个爵制改革为轴心来铺开它的这个变法的，把这个爵从贵族的专有物变成了一个可以庶民也能获得的这样的一个身份。这个就打破了这样的一个贵族原来非常严格的这样一个贵族社会。
While the Zhe are a tangible link to the era, they tell us nothing about Shang's reforms. Historians and archaeologists are eager to find the original records of these reforms, which would have been written on the bamboo slips used at this time. So far, they have found nothing in Shanxi province, the former Qin heartland. But surprisingly, the authenticity of the Book of Lord Shang has been corroborated by a number of archaeological finds made since the 1970s in areas that were once part of Qin's neighbour, Chu. In 1983, while excavating an early Western Han tomb in Hubei province's Zhangjiashan, archaeologists from the Jingzhou Museum found 1,000 bamboo slips. One set of slips details laws dealing with land and title, dating from the early Western Han period. Since Han inherited its laws from Qin, these laws must reflect Shangyang's reforms. Prior to his reforms, the land in Qin and in all the other states belonged to the aristocracy. Nobles allocated plots of land to peasant farmers. Farmers had little incentive to be productive since they didn't own the land. Shun's reforms introduced private land ownership for those with sufficient military merit. Under the new laws, land ownership was registered. People were entitled to own different amounts of land according to their rank. This meant peasants too could now own and inherit land. To alleviate land shortages, new land could be created by clearing forests or acquired through transfer or sale. Under the law, as a person's military rank increased, so did the size of the house and land he was entitled to. A commoner with no rank could own one field and one house. The lowest ranking officers could own 1.5 fields and 1.5 houses. An officer of the highest rank could have 95 fields and houses. Shang's land reform measures encouraged farmers to increase production. This meant that the state of Qin became more prosperous. Shang also introduced a tax designed to increase state revenue and create smaller households. All sons except one now had to leave their parents' households once they married. If not, the household tax would be doubled. From then on, a 5-member family became the standard.
汉书识货志里头就记载了一段，当时西汉时期、西汉中期，大儒董仲舒的一段记载，说治秦则不然，商鞅改帝王之治，然后废井田开阡陌，民德麦买，确实反映了说商鞅变法确实是一个具有非常划时代意义的这样的一个变化，因为商鞅的这个土地制度改革，允许土地买卖，这是在亘古未有的。
Agriculture made the state rich. Success in warfare made it powerful. To achieve that success, Shang used a strict form of reward and punishment. Noble titles were given to men with military prowess and taken from those without it. To encourage people to fight in wars and work the land, Shang enacted strict laws. Anyone who tried to avoid fighting or working faced painful punishments. The only way to become wealthy and successful was through agriculture or warfare, since Shang frowned on commerce. These reforms, which greatly reduced the power of the Qin nobles, provoked a strong reaction. The nobles did all they could to obstruct the reforms and make trouble. But with the steadfast support of Duke Xiao, Shang was determined to govern the state through the legal system. He declared war on his opponents. Because the people of Qin lived among barbarian tribes, they were rough and physical. There were frequent street fights, which undermined stability and damaged property. Shang decided to punish the offenders. However, the centuries-old habits of the people of Qin couldn't be changed overnight, and Shang faced strong resistance. According to one report, 700 offenders were executed in one day on the banks of the Wei River, which ran red with their blood. Incidents like this made it hard for people to accept the new laws. In the year following their introduction, Duke Xiao received thousands of letters that criticized the reforms. Shang persuaded the Duke that his opponents were dangerous, and the Duke had them exiled. Then something happened that shocked the whole state. It was an incident that really tested the resolve of Shang and Duke Xiao. The Duke's own son broke a law for which the punishment was having his face tattooed. In the past, nobles had been exempt from punishment, but Shang believed that all should be equal before the law. The Duke agreed with him, but as the future ruler, the prince could not be given a face tattoo. Instead, his teachers were punished for failing to educate him properly. One was tattooed, and the other had his nose cut off. After this, no one dared to challenge or break the new laws, which were implemented throughout the state. 3 years later, people were not greedy, there were no thieves, and families were happy. People were proud to fight for the state and ashamed to fight each other.
轻罪重罚、严刑峻法、依法治国，只是商鞅思想的第一个层次的内涵。第二个层次的内涵，我称之为商鞅所说的道德理想主义。用商鞅自己的话来讲，就是以刑去刑。真正的社会高度文明化是在这个社会长期的法治之后才能够实现。到了这个境界，到了这个程度呢，甚至老百姓都不需要官员的存在，不需要这个法治机构的存在，是非对错，大家都能够自裁于心。
Shenyang was a town between the Wei and Feng rivers. In the 13th year of his reign, Duke Shao moved the capital from Youyang to Shenyang because Shenyang's strategic location allowed it to control the river traffic between east and west. By then, Shang had become Qin's highest-ranking official, second only to the Duke. He now had the power to carry out more comprehensive reforms. Shenyang transformed the system of enfeoffment into a system of prefectures and counties. Small villages were amalgamated and administered by local governments. There were 31 prefectures in all, each with its own administrative and military heads. The power that had been previously dispersed among the regional rulers was now centralized. This concentration of power gave Qin an advantage over other states. It was a revolutionary administrative system, unique in the world at the time. British historian Arnold Toynbee praised Shenyang's innovative introduction of the county system, saying that it had contributed greatly to the strength of the state of Qin, its defeat of rival states, and its later unification of China.
从历史影响这个角度来看，它奠定了以后历朝历代地方行政的基本格局和历史基础。它不仅是行政区划上奠定了郡县，包括后来行省，包括我们现在地方行政制度的历史基础，同时在人口管理的模式上，在土地管理模式上，也奠定了以后历朝历代的基础。所谓千百年之发，皆商鞅之发，皆秦法。
Next, Shang introduced a number of measures that were useful in a centralized state. Besides introducing a head tax, he increased the size of the basic unit of land measurement, the mu, from 100 to 240 steps, to accommodate improved agricultural production. Another important initiative was the standardization of weights and measures. This is one of the treasures of Shanghai Museum, a bronze measuring device that's 2,000 years old. On the side is engraved 18th year of Duke Shao's reign, and on the bottom is an edict of the first Qin emperor. The fact that a plain bronze measure was inscribed with the names of two great rulers indicates its significance in the history of Qin.
这个就是商鞅方身，它是秦孝皇18年时候商鞅做的一个量器，是吧？主要是这个测量容积的一个器皿。特别重要呢，就是记载了这个容积的一个计算方法，16寸有1/5寸，这个立方寸的一个容积。我们知道秦始皇统一度量衡，他用的这个度量衡的制度，就是商鞅那时候确定下来的那个制度。
Here in Longshan County, Hunan Province, the home of the Tujia ethnic group, is the remote village of Liye. For thousands of years, villagers here lived a quiet life. Then, in 2002, a remarkable archaeological find was made in Liye. In an ancient pit near the Yo River, archaeologists found more than 30,000 bamboo slips dating back to the Qing Dynasty. Most of the slips are administrative records and show that even a village operated in accordance with Qin's strict standards of efficiency. These priceless artifacts now have their own museum in Liye, the Qin Bamboo Slip Museum. Museum director Peng Zhenggang deals with these exhibits every day. To him, they are not boring documents, but evidence of how even villages were governed by Qin's strict and efficient centralized bureaucracy.
这一枚剑，关于对官员进行一种考核，非常的详细，因为我们现在也在实行绩效考核，在秦朝就已经对官员有一种考核制度了。对官员考核，在行事过程之中，如果对你的工作业绩考核不合格的话，然后到年底对你的俸禄都会降级的。如果考核评优，所有的待遇，包括俸禄，包括饮食，包括你的家庭的待遇，都会相应的提高。这一枚剑也很有意思。我们现在不是要坐飞机，有时候要手持身份证吗？他要对你的相貌要进行核对。但是2000多年前秦朝，它也有这方面的记载。这枚剑就是通关凭证。这个剑上面关于你的肤色、你的身高、你的性别，还有你的爵位，它都有记载。
This standardization of bureaucratic procedures made the state of Qin increasingly efficient and centralized. Under Shanyang's new system, the people of Qin, from farmers to officials, were like cogs, each one helping the massive machine of state move forward. With its efficiency and its military might, Qin soon became the most powerful of all the warring states. In the 8th year of Duke Xiao's reign, Shang led an army against Wei that killed 7,000 enemy soldiers. 3 years later, he won another victory against Wei. 11 years later, at Maling, Qi defeated the Wei army and captured Prince Shen. General Pang Jun committed suicide as a result. Shanyang had waited for this moment for over 20 years. He wanted to help Qin avenge the loss of He. Shang told Duke Xiao that Qin and Wei could not coexist. He advised the Duke to attack Wei's depleted forces immediately. They would retreat eastward, and Qin could recapture He. The Duke took his advice, and Shanyang led the army that defeated Wei. Wei had been dealt a heavy blow. Fearing that Qin would attack again, King Hui of Wei was forced to cede He. 100 years later, the great thinker Shen Se compared the strength of the armies of Qi, Wei, and Qin, saying that Qi was no match for Wei, and Wei was no match for Qin. He added that what had made Qin invincible was Shang's laws, which rewarded the brave and punished the cowardly.
秦军是百战百胜，根本六国没有办法抵抗。为什么呢？因为秦军它有非常先进的军事制度、征兵制度，包括它的武器系统。商鞅变革，我们现在眼光看，它实际上是一个以军事改革为中心的全面改革。所以基本上说，所有的这个改革的措施都是围绕着增强国家的军事实力。当然，这军事实力它后面也需要经济实力的支撑，但它的注目点还是在于提高在战国的当中竞争能力。
After many years of hard work, Duke Xiao had finally revived Duke Wu's glory. In 343 BC, the king of Zhou gave him the title of Bo, or Overlord. The following year, the rulers of the other vassal states assembled to congratulate him, and the king of Zhou received the duke's son, now styled the Qin Crown Prince. Duke Xiao fulfilled his long-ago promise to Shang by giving him a grant of land. Having failed to fulfill his ambitions in Wei, it now appeared that Shang was assured of a brilliant future in Qin. But as he received the accolades of his ruler, Shanyang did not know that others were plotting against his life. This is Shuihudi, in Hubei province's Yunmeng County. In 1975, farmers who were digging a drain discovered a huge tomb. This find filled a major gap in China's archaeological knowledge. Over 1,000 bamboo slips were found in the tomb. Most were legal documents. The slips confirmed Qin's use of the Book of Laws by referencing its 6 chapters on theft, treason, imprisonment, arrest, miscellaneous regulations, and legal instruments. They also showed that Shang formulated new civil and administrative legislation independent of these laws. This was the foundation for Qin's new centralized bureaucratic regime. The most controversial and notorious of Shang's laws was the one stipulating that if a person broke a law and relatives, neighbors, or superiors failed to report it, they would be subject to the same punishment as the offender. To make this feasible, families were organized into groups of 5 or 10, like military squads. Such draconian laws made Qin powerful, but also meant that it was ruled by fear. The nobles who had lost their power or even suffered punishments because of Shanyang's laws were waiting for the chance to take revenge. In 338 BC, Duke Shao passed away, and the crown prince took over, becoming King Huiwen. A group of anti-Shang nobles formed, led by the king's teacher who had had his nose cut off on Shang's orders. Determined to get rid of Shang, they accused him of treason. King Huiwen ordered his arrest.
当时商鞅就开始逃到关下的时候，他想要留宿，结果那个店主让他拿出他的那个符篆来，就是能表明他的身份的这样的一个证件来，他没有，店主就不敢收留他，说商君有令，如果你要留宿客人的话，一定要有这个符篆，如果你没有，我不敢留你，否则我一定会被那个判处刑罚，而且我的家人会连坐的。所以商君当时非常的感慨，说我没有想到我自己制定的法律居然把我自己陷于这样的一个境地。
Soon afterwards, Qin troops killed Lord Shang as he tried to flee. The king ordered the most brutal punishment imaginable, that his body be taken to Shenyang, tied to 5 chariots, and torn apart. Even though King Huiwen had hated Shang so much that he'd had him killed and dismembered, the new ruler of Qin realized that he must not abolish Shang's laws. They had transformed Qin from a peripheral state into a new power that was strong, centralized, and efficient. They were also the basis of Qin's stable and sustained development. Most of Shanyang's reforms were influenced by those implemented in other states. In Wei, for example, Li Kui had created a bureaucracy based on merit, codified the legal system, and developed agriculture. In Chu, Wu Qi reformed the bureaucracy by eliminating the hereditary privileges of officials after 3 generations. Han, Zhao, and Wei increased the basic unit of land measurement late in the spring and autumn period. So how did Shang's reforms help Qin achieve such success during the Warring States period?
是因为秦本身比较落后，落后的时候它没有一个完整的制度，非常的不健全。那么这个时候商鞅带来一个比较文明的新的制度，他也愿意接受。孝公他是一个非常强势的君主，而且有很强烈的改革的愿望。他在位时间也很长，所以能够一直支持商鞅，把2次变革推行到底。
商鞅就是很多人评价他说他是刻薄人，但是如果这样一个人他进行治理国家的话，实际上他是奋不顾身的。所以即使商鞅本人受到诟病，受到一些不好的评价，但是他的这套制度本身确实是行之有效的。所以从国家制度建设来讲，从法律制度建设来讲，这是应该说是2000年的制度的一个根本，一个奠基。
By 221 BC, 138 years after Xiangyang's reforms, and thanks to the cohesive state and the powerful army created by those reforms, Qin had succeeded in conquering all the other states and unifying China. So began a new era in China's history.